Hi everyone, it's Emily, and these last few days I've been going through various websites and pages of all these sales that are happening right now for the so-called Black Friday deals that have been happening since October or even as early as September. And there's been this one very noticeable trend I've been noticing on a lot of games that are currently on sale, and that a lot of them happen to be games that I had FOMO bought over the last few years, paying full MSRP or sometimes even higher for a few of these games. So today I kind of want to talk about how kind of reflecting on some of my previous purchases I've made for the last few years and some, shifting trends I've been noticing for a lot of physical games have kind of helped me ease, the foot off the pedal when it comes to trying to snatch up games with the worry that they're going to skyrocket in price. Because I really think this is less of an issue than it was like post-pandemic, in those kind of early years of seeing very expensive video games and a lot of games going out of print, that a lot of people were just worried that physical games were, falling out of favor. And so physical games are just going to continue rising in price, that we have to snatch up these games before they're gone, or otherwise we're going to, have to pay a premium price to own them. Now, I'm a very big physical game collector. You guys can see the shelves behind me. I own a lot of games, but I've been trying to become a little more conscious about what games I really want to store on the game shelves behind me, because I have very limited space where I'm currently living, and I also just don't want to own a ton of games. That was never really the purpose for why I like to collect video games. I've mentioned this a few times on the channel, but I like to aspire towards curated collecting, where I really just want to own the games that I love or games I want to get to when I have time, and kind of curate a library of great JRPGs, which is one of the genres I adore, as well as a lot of narrative and visual novel games, and just have this library of games that can't be taken away from me because they're on the physical disc or game cart that I could access at any time. I've had this YouTube channel for now over 3.5 years, and I have documentation of games that I picked up in those years, as well as, sharing collections of things that I amassed prior to when I started my channel. You kind of see, especially if you look at them closely, some games have come and gone from my collection as I slowly try to wheedle away to a selection of games in my aspiring curated collection. And in doing, I think, this whole process, I think I've definitely learned that resisting FOMO is something that you can acquire slowly, because I think I definitely gave in to quite a number of FOMO purchases early on before I started YouTube, and definitely while I was on YouTube, right when, a lot of games were not getting reprinted, and a lot of modern games were also just, had very limited stock, where there were so many new limited print games that were coming out on the market, especially through places like Limited Run Games and alike, where I felt like I had to buy them. Otherwise, I was going to be almost impossible to pick up those games physically at a cheaper price, where I'm now able to reflect on and notice that I did sort of give into FOMO in those earlier years, especially for a lot of modern titles that were through some loaded print publishers like Limited Run Games, of titles I didn't really need in my collection, but I had this fear that if I didn't buy this now, I would have to pay a premium if I ever did want it in my said collection. Similarly, with a lot of niche games, there was always this kind of, back in your mind worry that if you didn't buy this close to launch, those games were going to be gone, out of print, and impossible to find for relatively decent prices. Because really at that time between 2020, even up to maybe last year in 2024, there was a lot of games that, just were hard to find either on the Switch or even on the PS5. And there's just this fear, like, are they really not going to print this because physical media is falling out of favor? So should I really maybe pay a premium right now and buy these up, or snatch these up because they look interesting and I may want to keep these in my collection? It was really, I think, a weird time for modern game collecting, because prior to that time period in the previous generation, a lot of games, people, especially big physical game collectors, they would wait for the sales and clearance prices before they would snatch up a lot of those games that they don't plan to play on day one. I think a lot of collectors were kind of, again, shifting from that mindset of, oh, these games will eventually go on sale, to I should snap these up right now before they disappear. So after all that reflecting and looking at 2025 and 2026 and potentially beyond, I really think that a lot of modern games, we don't really have to worry about snatching up a lot of titles right away in fear that they're going to be highly limited and explode in price if we don't buy them now. So I think this past year, I've really not been doing a lot of pickups except for games that I wanted to play day one. There were a few exceptions, like when I went to some retro gaming conventions, as well as when I went to PAX West and snatched up some deals of games that I had my eye on, but got them for pretty good prices. But I think in that time, I was really not buying a lot of new releases that I wasn't planning to play day one, or I was able to kind of wait because I may have been lucky enough to have a digital copy of the game to try out before I decided if I wanted to have the actual game in my physical collection or not. And I think this will continue on to next year, where we could still be, I think, rather patient when it comes to deciding if we want games or not, because there's just been too many times where a retail release would get some sort of reprint announcement and then later go on sale because they printed plenty of games. And we really didn't have to worry about it becoming the next new rare modern release. There's really not that many titles of games right now that I am kind of regretting not picking up when it came out at launch, because they're pretty easy to come by nowadays. There may be a few exceptions, but part of me wonders, am I regretting not buying that because it's rare and expensive right now? Or was it actually a game I wanted to own physically in my collection? So I've been trying to take a step back from collecting and trying to be, again, approach it all with a more selective mindset and patience, because I think inevitably a lot of physical games will eventually go on sale. Even games that were only available, say, on limited run. Sometimes they have a short launch of games that is through their website, but then a few months later, there is a retail version that will eventually get 25 or even sometimes half off in price if you wait long enough. And again, I think the big thing to stress here is if you do want to buy a game at launch, I think that's perfectly fine, especially if you want, the comfort that, okay, I don't have to worry about getting this game physically, and I'm not having to watch, all these retailers to see when is the lowest price going to happen before I eventually buy it and play it. And that's not really what I'm trying to, come across in this video, but it's more towards, I think, those with similar mindsets of trying to build a library of games. I think it's okay to be more patient and embrace that patience so that you have more time to think about certain titles that you really want in your game library. And also consider which system you want the said game in your game library. I think a lot of us are very disappointed with the Nintendo Switch 2 third-party situation, where a lot of games people were waiting for, I want to see if they're going to have this game on the Nintendo Switch 2 cart, but it ends up being a key card. And if you're not into collecting key cards, like myself, it's nice to kind of look back and see, oh wow, this got so much cheaper on the PS5 or some other system. And I feel like that wait was, worth it. And I think just, embracing the wait in that direction has just made me a little bit more conscious about games I pick up and for, again, which systems I want to pick them up for and which one maybe has the best build or runs the best performance-wise or just, contains the most of the game's data on the said cart or disc. And so those are things that I personally value as a collector, and moving forward, I think I will continue to value as kind of criteria for games I decide to pick up. And I'm not going to be, giving into FOMO to pick them up just because I'm afraid they're going to be more limited or more expensive in a few months' time. So what do I now do to help resist the urge for FOMO buying video games? Well, nowadays, I try not to buy any games day one unless I'm going to be playing it day one. That's kind of become now my standard when it comes to buying brand new releases. I've also been making multiple lists of certain types of games in different genres across different consoles, kind of keeping track of what games I'm actually interested in buying, and removing games solely off of there as kind of markers of I'm no longer really interested in playing you, even though you might be very rare someday, or you might have a fantastic price right now during Black Friday. If you're, say, like $15 or $20, which is, I guess, relatively cheap nowadays for modern video games, I no longer feel the urge to buy you. It's kind of the idea. So I think for my next video, I plan on sharing what my method is going to be for this Black Friday. So I've set a budget, and in doing that budget, I think it's going to help me kind of have my constraints so that I don't go too crazy about buying games that I don't really need. And they're all going to be games that have been on my kind of wish list for the past year or so that I finally want to actually break down and buy them. Either ones I played digitally before or ones I haven't played yet at all. I'm going to kind of share my method of how I'm going to go about this Black Friday kind of season, and hope that it helps any of you who are also trying to reduce your FOMO when it comes to buying video games, and kind of share my method of how I plan to be buying games for now on when it comes to adding to the collection behind me. Now, have I been cured of FOMO buying? No, I don't think it's really easy to cure anyone of FOMO buying. There's always going to be some item, whether it's a physical game or a statue or some limited collector's item of some sort, that you're going to feel like you need to buy this now before it's out of stock, because we have been seeing that, especially with a lot of, I would say, console hardware or controllers. They have, limited variants that they have only X amount. You need to buy them before they're gone right away. Same with collector's editions. There's been, smaller kind of batches of collector's editions. Sometimes you get lucky. Like Bandai Namco right now has really cheap collector's editions. If you didn't buy them at launch, you could get them like 85% off. It's kind of wild. But for things like that, or premium packages of games or importing items that, again, thrive on that limited time window to pre-order them. Otherwise, it's almost impossible to get it after the fact. There's always going to be something, but I think being more mindful and thoughtful of your purchases kind of helps reduce that urge to buy up everything, and really prioritize what things matter more to you when it comes to this hobby, so that we don't spend recklessly and actually buy things we want to keep and cherish in our collections. And I want to give a huge shout out to all of my channel members who help support videos like these, as well as my live streams, both here on YouTube and on Twitch, where we have a lot of fun playing games from my backlog or new releases that we want to check out together and chat about. And I also want to thank especially my Orbment Architect level channel members, Trin and Dr. God. Thank you so much for all your support. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about this topic. Have you kind of eased off the pedal when it comes to the FOMO purchases as well this past year, and kind of looking into 2026 and beyond? Do you think you'll adopt a similar mindset, or do you think that physical media is just going to become scarcer than ever, and that we need to buy up these games as soon as possible with the fear that they may, disappear right before our eyes? I think it's kind of a weird, line to walk across. Do we need to, fund all these physical games so that they're continuing to be printed and not, just subjected to like a game key card or game key get disc, or just digital only? Or should we also be just very selective as consumers of which games we actually want to buy for the purpose of our own, personal enjoyment? So love to hear what your guys' take is on this topic. And until my next video, bye guys.